Hello, fellow Cricketers. So tonight I wanted to do a quick tutorial on how to create a quick, simple card and envelope using free options in Design Space. This won't require Cricut access or any downloading of any kind of files, but there are, of course, those options out there. There are free envelope and card SVG cut files all over the place that if you want to look for those. But this is how you can do it with just what is included within Design Space. And once we make our little card and envelope, we're going to go ahead and put it back through the Cricut to actually address or write on the card as well. So you can see how to do that all in once. So the first thing we're going to do is select the shapes that we're going to be using. And again, I mentioned that it does not require Cricut access, but if you go over here to the images area and you do a search for envelope, you'll see quite a few things come up. And if you have access, then you have all kinds of options there. But if you don't, there's no worries here, because if you go to the filter option in the right and choose free, there are several options for free envelopes, and they're all kind of various sizes and shapes. I'm going to go ahead and just grab this one down here, this kind of purplish one. I'm going to insert that image, and you'll see we get basically a blank envelope in front of us. This one here is kind of close to a standard A2 size, but if you just kind of went right ahead and made this and cut it out, it will give you a nice little envelope for a general A2 size card, which is about 5.5 by 4.25 inches. And so we want to make a card at the same time. So to make our card, we're going to do a quick and simple rectangle to fit inside this envelope. I'm going to show you how to do that. So what we're going to do is select our shapes. We're going to grab a square here. And like I said, an A2 is basically 4.25 by 5.5. So we're going to go ahead and make this that size so you can kind of see how they relate to each other. So our width is going to be 4.25, and our height is going to be 5.5. And so if I put this box over it, you'll see that this fits nicely within the score line. You could make it a little bit bigger. However, this is a standard size, so if perhaps you bought some note cards or whatever that didn't have envelopes, you could use this envelope for that standard A2 kind of pocket card size, I think is what they call it. Now, because we're going to make our own card, you're going to, of course, need to double the width of this, because we're going to add a score line to the card so you actually have a full, folding card. So what I'm going to do is kind of push this over to the side and get myself some workspace here. And I'm going to double this. So of course, if we go from 4.25 wide, we're going to go up to 8.5 wide instead here. And so now we have our full length card, and we just need to add a quick score line to the center of that. And we just do that by going to our shapes, selecting the score line. And I think it always puts it kind of way over here. I don't know why it does that, but that's what it does. So I found it. I'm going to drag it back over to where I was working on. Just kind of put it on top of here for now. And obviously we want it to be the same height as our card. And again, our height was 5.5, because we're working on basically a 5.5 by 4.25 inch finished card size. So I got my line. I'm going to make it a 5.5 high line. And then I'm going to select both the line and the box. So I'm going to or a rectangle. So I'm just going to do a quick selection there. And I'm going to use our line option and just go right down here to center. And there we have our score line right in the middle of our card. And you can see that. I'm going to change the color of my card just so it's easier to see on the screen. We'll go with a nice kind of purple color here. And so now we have our score line in our card. Now, of course, the thing that we need to do right now is attach those two so that when we send it over to our mat, it actually makes it the right way. So I'm going to just get those two things selected again. And you see on the layers panel, they are the score line and the cut box are both selected. So now we're going to go down here and attach. And here we have, I'm going to zoom out so you can kind of see them together. Not very color coordinated, but we have an envelope and a card that if we just went to make it right now, we'd have a nice blank envelope and blank card that you can write on or do whatever else you wanted to. Now, at this point, we're going to go ahead and cut these shapes out so you can kind of see what it looks like. And then we're going to start talking about how maybe you already have a set of cards you've got and you need to address them once you've cut them out or once you've bought them from somewhere else. So we're going to go ahead and talk about how we would place these finished products back onto a mat and then realign it with the writing tool so we can actually write on these objects. And the reason for that is sometimes I've got some heavy cardstock cards that I want to use, but I don't want to send them through my printer because I have a laser printer, and two things will happen. One is if the paper is too thick, it could get stuck in the printer too often, and I end up with jamming more often than actually getting a print. But more importantly, when I send cardstock through a laser printer, it does get rather curled at the end because of the heat. So we get that kind of curling effect, and that doesn't make it very nice either. If you have a decent inkjet printer, you might be able to get away with that. But I also have problems with some heavier cardstocks inside of an inkjet printer, and also that's um, gives it a different kind of feel if you do it through Cricut, because you get that kind of handwriting effect a little bit more easily. So that's what we're going to do next. Is we're going to talk about, once these are cut out, I'll show you what they look like and how we put them together, and then how we can put them back through to do writing on something after the fact.